So welcome back. It's really exciting to be back drawing together number 60, which is pretty amazing. Um, and if you're new to these gatherings, thank you for joining us. And if you're back, we're really happy to see you again. It's very exciting. As many of you know, because there's familiar faces and names here, Drawing Together is an initiative of the Graphic Medicine International Collective, which the mission of which is to guide and support the use of comics in health. And at this gathering, like all GMIC does, we strive to live up to our values of kindness, compassion, and inclusivity. My name is MK Serwick. I'm a nurse and a cartoonist, and I'd like to give a chance to my co-host, Abru, to introduce themselves. Abru.
Thanks, MK. So lovely to see everyone. We kind of missed you all. I hope you had a great summer. I'm one of the board members, as many of you also know that I co-chair the board with Michael Green. So nice to see you all. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday indeed. Fantastic. All right. Well, I am very, very excited. On with the show. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Dutch comic artist and graphic novelist Margreet de Heer. Margreet is the creator of many books for children and adults. I am currently so interested in and excited about enjoying this series of three books that is called like A Discovery in Comics. So the first one is Science, and the second is Religion, and the third is Philosophy. And what is amazing about these books is and we're going to talk about this. I'm really excited that Marguerite is focusing on this. The amount of material that is so efficiently and inclusively organized in these books. I mean, I just got through the science. I mean, there was so much I wasn't taught, so much I didn't learn that I learned from just reading these wonderful texts. So and they're entertaining, and there's just this wonderful visual style, which you'll see when Marguerite shares her work. And then the other thing at the Graphic Medicine International Conference this summer in Ireland, I picked up this fabulous zine called One Human, One Cat, which is really wonderful. And you may have also seen through our social media that Marguerite won the award for most influential social media post at the conference with an entire Instagram comic, many panels shared about the conference while at the conference, which being able to do comics in real time just always blows my mind because I'm doing stuff about like the early 90s. It always takes me forever to be able to organize things in a clear way. Anyway, so without any further ado, I turn our wonderful gathering over to you, Marguerite.
Thank you, MK, and I'm so honored to be asked to do this. I already attended twice, and I love the community. I already love the atmosphere here before I got to Ireland this summer. So that was really, I'm still riding that wave. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm going to give you all something to draw, hopefully. Let me see how I'm going to share my stuff here. Yes, there it is. Yeah, timelines. We're going to draw timelines and um timelines. Yeah, as MK said in my books, I'm using a lot of timelines when I talk about history, and but you can also use them for also very personal stuff. So I'll talk you a bit through how I've used them, and then I'll give you an assignment for to work on today. As a quick example here, I drew myself running with literally with two timelines. One is my resume. Basically, I was born in 1972. I graduated in 1990. I got to comics pretty late. In 1999 is when I really decided, yes, I want to try to become a professional comic artist, and I succeeded. And my biggest claim to fame is between 2010 and 2017, when I produced 5 books in the Discovery series. Apart from the ones that MK mentioned, there's also one about world domination and about love. And then yeah, I'm also very proud that in 2017 I was chosen to be the comic artist laureate of the Netherlands, which is sort of like an ambassadorship for Dutch comics, and I used that to get graphic novels into schools, in high school Dutch reading. We have lists of literature that students are allowed to read. And well, reading is a problem here in Holland. I think it's everywhere, getting kids to read. So I advocated for, let them read graphic novels because they're just as literary as literature often, or can be. And I made a guide for teachers. Well, the timeline underneath is a shorter one. That's just last week as an example of what you can do today as well. Last week I went dancing with Germans. If you want to know what that is, you should look it up on my Substack, because I made a comic about it, as you can see with the little thingy underneath. I went shopping with my mom, actually over the border here. I'm in northern Germany and it's very close to Holland. So we went to a Dutch supermarket and I got a comic idea for that, as you can see. And then there's this thing about Mimi's party, but I actually never went to Mimi's party. So if I want to make another timeline comic about this, I could make it about why I didn't go to Mimi's party, how the preparations were going, and what went wrong. Spoiler alert, there was a storm. And then there's this workshop. So that's the intro. Let's see how I can get my next slide. How can I get my next slide? No? Yes. Okay, don't be scared of this one. This is the biggest timeline I ever did for my book about science. And this is the history of the Earth, 4.5 billion years of planet history in one big panel. And the line itself is the red line. It goes from left to right and then from right to left again. I made this into a big poster, and this was also in schools. But this is the biggest one I ever did. This is a smaller one I did also in the science book, and it's about the development of science in during the Middle Ages. And this one I also made into an animation with Video Scribe. And I put music underneath, and it's in my YouTube channel, and this is one of my best viewed animations. It has had over 1 million views in 11 years that it's up there. So if you want to see what this is all about, you can watch the whole thing on my YouTube channel. And also you can actually download it, but I'll post a link later, because I'm all about giving educational stuff away for free. That's I believe very strongly in education, and that it should be free for all, and that comics actually make education much more fun, and that you can actually understand things better when they're visual. So how do I go about making timelines generally? Well, this is the sort of the bare bones of an assignment I once did for a couple who were celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary, and I started out with this. This was containing a lot of information, so I chose 5 tiers. You don't have to make a really big one, but you can see you can fit a lot of stuff on a line like this. And then I made the sketches, and I made them all separately, and I put them on the timeline in Photoshop. And then I put in the text with my own computerized font. And then this is what it looks like when it's all colored. And this is more in line of what I would like you folks to do. Look at your own life. Doesn't have to be 40 years, but any time in your life, and you're going to put it on a timeline. For Cora and Elise, this was 40 years of their marriage. And you can see in the left upper corner, that's when they got married, and they bought their first house, their children were born, they had jobs, parents were dying, They went on beautiful trips. They bought another house. Their sons graduated, got jobs of their own. They went on cruises. They were going to retire. They bought a snazzy red car. And then eventually there's a grandkid, and it ends with their 40th anniversary party and the second grandkid in the works. So this was a big assignment that I did, especially for these two lovely people. And they have it hanging in their house big. And this is, yeah, well, this is the ultimate thing that a timeline can do. There's also very personal stuff in there, like sickness and depression. And when you put it in visuals there, and you put it in in relation to yeah, your own timeline, you sort of get at least I do, I get a feel for what difficult periods in my life mean in the bigger picture of me being a human being growing through this life. So it always helps me to yeah, sort of literally put things in perspective and get a grip on where I am and where I want to be. There are more timelines. When I was the comic artist laureate, I made a point of making a timeline every 3 months to keep people informed of what I was doing. So in the end, I had, I forget how many, I got a lot of timelines, and I used them all in a book that I made, which I crowdfunded. So this picture I used for the crowdfunding, saying like, look, this is what I did in the beginning of 2020, the first half year. And in the second half of the year, I'm doing a crowdfunding. And please, I hope that the crowdfunding here in the red and yellow, that it will be successful. So please join my crowdfunding. So this is what I used for that. You can actually see there the pandemic starting and other stuff. Well, a lot happened. It's so nice that I still can look back on that through my own timelines. Anyway, this was time that we were talking about, and I used this sort of same kind of yeah, walkway that I walked on, but you can use different stuff, and you don't have to actually per se use a chronology. This is a line for electricity. Also from the science book that I made. And it does start a bit chronological, like looking back, you know, when did we know, and when and how did humans find out about electricity, and what kind of inventions were made. And I'm using an electrical cord to show people how to read this whole sequence. And then in the middle, I use it for more info. And at the end, I like to put in a pun. So that's a more comic-y way of using a quote-unquote timeline. And here's the same I did for genetics. This one is in Dutch because I could not find the English version. And I used the string of DNA as the line that we're following, and also starting out with a little bit of historical perspective and then explaining a lot in the middle, and then ending with a joke. And you can see, for instance, the cloning of Dolly in the lower tier. So I tried to put in as much information about the history of genetics there. But back to timelines. This is more in line of what I hope you'll be doing here today. This is one I made for my husband on his 40th birthday. And you can also see it. You can put in perspective, you can make it a path, you can use colors, you can be creative with it. It doesn't have to be really very elaborate. This is him just as a baby starting out, and then I put in little bridges at 10, 20, 30, and then 40 is the biggest bridge, and you can see his two best friends who are a little younger than he is, and they were all like, oh gosh, 40, it's gonna be the end of the world. But I am welcoming him over the hurdle to the cool side of 40. So that's also something you can do for the timeline. It's just a fun thing. But you can also make it a less fun thing. Last year, when I had my 51st birthday, I was in a challenging place, and this was how I felt about it. It feels like I scaled the top of Centennial Mountain, and now I'm. Let me see if there's I can really can't read what I'm saying there. Well, something with the slow sliding slope of decay, death and decay, and that is my mom, because I'm here in the north of Germany, also to be close to my mom who's in a nursing home, and that had just happened last year, and that sort of put me in a frame of mind of yeah, gosh. Yeah, their end of life is sort of near. How near is it for me? So that feeling, I put that in this timeline, which I shaped as a mountain. I don't feel like that anymore. These feelings do pass, probably also because I got to put it in a visual, and then I can sort of, shrug about it and laugh at myself. Um, but this is also something you can do with it. It doesn't have to be a squiggly line. You can make it in any shape that you want. And I've talked about now timelines that I put in information or that show stuff that happens during life. But the challenging thing about looking at your own life as well, I think, is putting in the narrative. Humans are narrative people. We tend to look at ourselves and our own lives, and we tell stories about ourselves. So when you make a timeline about your life or about the past decade or even about last week, it's interesting to try to put in a little bit of a story there. And what I've drawn here is the hero's journey from Mr. Campbell, forget his first name, which I've also drawn as a sort of line, which is, of course, by its very nature chronological, to remind people what a hero's journey, or maybe you're just hearing this for the first time. The hero's journey is archetypes that you can find in many almost all big stories all over the world. It's always there is a hero, then there is a call to adventure, then usually, or it can happen that the hero says, no, I'm not going, and then there's some divine intervention, and then the hero says, okay, I'm going, and then he's going on his way, or his or her way. Meeting the mentor is also a thing in there. I think Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. Then over the threshold, that's when the hero actually leaves for the adventure. Meeting allies, encountering enemies and ordeals, meeting the divine, meeting up with temptation, having some sort of transformation, or a death, or at least something that signifies a new life. Then there's the ultimate confrontation. And then there is a reward at the end. And then in a sort of epilogue, there's a reconciliation with a sort of father figure and a return as a new and better person. It's interesting when you take this sort of, what you can put it, you can see it in many movies, stories, the hero's journey. So if you, for this assignment I'm giving you, if you could put in just a few elements of a narrative story, have yourself as the hero of your own timeline, and see if you can spice it up and make it really like a little adventure. Okay, now we finally get to the assignment. Let's keep it compact and try to make a timeline of last week and choose what you're going. You can never tell everything. It's always, you're always editing the story of your own life. So what are you going to talk about? Are you going to talk about the groceries you did? Are you going to talk about work challenges? Are you going to talk about relationship stuff? That's up to you. Make it into a story. Keep it to last week and have fun with it, and make it nice and visual, and be creative and quirky. And then when you're done, eventually, please consider subscribing to my newsletter community on Substack, margreetheer.substack.com. So thank you very much.